Okay, well, welcome to our class today. We've decided that my picture isn't working very well, so if I'm choppy in the video, that's why. I'm trying not to move very much. So what I want to do is share my screen right away with everybody, just so I'm not so choppy if that's the problem. So we're going to be talking about idioms, about people. So we'll share that. Okay, good. Uh-oh. Don't look, not yet. Okay. So can everyone hear me okay still?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
Can-
Thomas.
Yep. Hello. Hello, Thomas.
Uh-oh, we can't hear you, Thomas.
Can you hear me now?
No, we
Yes.
can, yep.
Okay, good. How are you?
Good. I have a sore throat today, actually. I think it's just the weather and just, yeah, so, but that happens.
So you've got a sexy voice today.
Oh gosh, I don't know if I'd ever consider that. We are live, Thomas, now, just so you know, if you didn't. So I'm definitely not watching this video.
Okay.
So today we're going to work on some different vocabulary and idioms. First, we're going to look at some vocabulary words describing some people. I'm trying to choose some different things. Let's see if I can get this a little bit in the middle here better. Different words. All right. So we have these words I want to look at today. And there's this one, for example, I had really never seen before. Thomas, do you know this word?
Circumspect, yeah.
Really?
Yes. Yes, really.
Well, you are older and have more experience. But that's one word that I hadn't seen before. Gregarious I had seen, but I wasn't really sure about the meaning. And then the other one was impetuous, which I've also heard of, but I wasn't really super clear with the meaning. So if
that's
you
true.
don't...
With impetuous, I've heard of it, but I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, circumspect. Something is circumspect. It's sort of not suspicious is the wrong word. It's anyway. I can't really
think of any synonyms. That's okay.
I can't really think of where to put it in a sentence, but
right. Well,
this
first
seems a bit circumspect to me. I would probably something like that.
Yeah, no, that sounds good considering I've never used it in a sentence in my life. So yes, for now, what I want to do is start from the beginning because I like to be organized, and we'll start with this one. So introverted. Who can tell me what introverted means?
I can.
That's kind of rough. You can, perfect. What does it mean?
Introvert means, how can I say, opposed to outgoing.
Okay, that's very true. So what kind of a person can you describe a person who's introverted?
Some artists seems like introvert. I get or some of my friend, but I don't remember particular name now.
No, that's okay. Can you describe maybe how the person acts in certain situations?
For example, they are shy, probably. Also, they don't talk so much. They are not so talkative. Maybe character can be called introvert.
Sure, yeah, it depends on the person. So that's good. I liked shy, maybe quiet, things like that. So good. What about the word conservative? Do we think introverted and conservative are the same?
I don't think so.
Why don't you think so?
Because some introvert people has a liberal idea.
Okay, Rafa, did you want to add to that?
No, I completely agree with Aka. It's not the same concept, it's a different concept. I think conservative is more related to people who thinks in an old-fashioned way or always trying to get the same from from the same from different issues, very conservative, very old-fashioned, or something like that.
All right, Thomas, do you have anything to add?
Well, conservative means, well, it's often referred to in terms of politics, isn't it? So you have the Conservatives in the UK, for example, which has a particular set of political values, but it also, of course, means, as quite rightly was said, that yeah, you know, you kind of old-fashioned, look at things in a slightly more old-fashioned. It's not necessarily old-fashioned though, is it? Again, in a particular set of ways.
I would actually use the word reserved as a synonym. I think it's a good word just because maybe you have an idea, however, you're not maybe going to I don't know, express the idea or act on something to the full extent. You're going to kind of hold back a little, and be more conservative. So yeah, someone who's, I don't want to say willing to try new things all the time, but kind of just maybe like they like to observe, or something like that. So is that more or less clear, the differences between introverted? Okay. Good. Temperamental. Thomas, why don't you take that one?
Are you saying I'm temperamental?
No, I'm not.
People who have a temperament, who are a little bit more fiery, a little bit more, a little bit more fiery, I think.
Good. Okay. Ken or Rafa, do you want to add anything to temperamental?
People that need to hold his horses, because all the time is very with his mood is more than himself, or something like that.
Okay, good. Ken, do you have anything to add?
I guess this word came from temper, so sounds like this person's feeling change a lot, changeable.
Very good. All right, I would use the word moody, I think, for a synonym. One moment you're fine, something happens, and the next moment you're angry, upset, sad, something else. So yeah, this is basically that your temper, as you said, Ken, your opinion, I don't want to say opinion, but your mood changes very quickly. So good. All right, so impetuous. So Thomas, I heard some clicking over there. Are you looking up something?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I am actually, yeah.
No,
I don't have a very good.
Well,
So
any
acting
guesses?
or so yeah, I posted in the chat what I found, but can people actually see the chat?
I can see it.
Okay, good.
Can you? Yeah, now I see your chat. Yes.
Acting or done quickly and without thought or care. Yeah. So what kind of situations might we do something impetuously? Any idea?
When we've had a bit too much to drink, I think. A bit too much alcohol.
Good example. I was not thinking in that direction, but sure, yeah, that's a great example. Rafa?
I was thinking in people who is going to different matches.
Yes, the football fans can be very impetuous. That's true.
Yeah.
At the end of the match.
That's very true. Ken, any ideas?
Yeah, maybe if I have to hurry up, maybe if I try to catch train, sometimes I would like that. I would be impetuous.
Okay. All right, good. Well, I liked those examples. What about the word liberal?
Opposed
Anyone? Yep.
Open to new ideas, I think. Open to the left side of the political side in politics or something like that.
Okay, good. So yeah, the opposite would be conservative in this case. Good. Ken, did you want to add something else?
Yeah, I saw the same thing. Liberal usually they are open for new ideas, and conservative they are afraid of new ideas usually.
Mm-hmm. Good. And Thomas, anything else?
No, I think that was a great definition.
Yeah, they did pretty good on that.
Yeah,
perfect.
I think that sums it up quite well. I suppose it could be used as a verb as well, couldn't it? To apply something liberally, so it means to apply something generously.
Mm-hmm. Liberally, technically, Thomas, would be an adverb.
Adverb, sorry.
Sorry. Yes,
I love you too.
That's like, no, boss, that's wrong. Good. Well, perfect. I do agree with you too, Thomas, in an adverb sense. Good. All right. What about the word gregarious? Has anyone ever heard of this before?
I heard, because in Spanish it's so similar. Gregario. I don't know, but perhaps it's the same meaning. And I think Spanish is people who want to be together. Always, it's people who enjoy staying together with in a group of people or something like that. Oppositing could be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I didn't know it was the same in Spanish, so thank you. Now I've learned a new word today. Good. Ken, had you heard of this word before?
No, but sounds like Gregorian calendar.
And what does that make you think of?
I don't know, maybe. But maybe it came from Italian or Spanish and sounds like, or Latin, sounds like that.
I
But
think
I
it's
don't.
Latin, yeah. Of animals living in flocks or loosely organized communities. Okay, yeah. Well, my definition is very similar to Rafa's. Someone who likes to be with other people, very social. So yeah, I think all of this works. I'm not sure what the calendar definition, but it's who knows? Maybe they needed a lot of people to put that calendar together. So perfect. What about the word selfish? Oh, person fond of company, sociable. Mm-hmm. Great, Thomas.
I also associate gregarious with slightly flamboyant, not flamboyant, outgoing, very outgoing.
Okay. Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you want to be in
Sociable,
group situations, you kind of have to be outgoing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Perfect. All right, good. What about selfish?
Selfish means self-centered.
Okay. All right. Well, yes. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Usually it's a bad thing.
I like that you said usually.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I agree with that. Rafa, do you have anything to add?
Egotistic could be a synonymous. Egotistic or
Egotistic.
Egotistic or always thinking in himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Good. Thomas, do you have any opinions about selfish?
Yeah, I suppose people who only work or act in the interest of themselves rather than in a sort of more generous interest of maybe helping other people, or everything they do is to do with themselves rather than to do with other people.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I look at selfish as both positive and negative because I do consider myself a selfish person in the positive way. And let me explain, just because I feel that, we're only here on this earth once, so why not be a little selfish and, buy that big screen TV, buy that nice car, do things that you enjoy. So that's my personal definition of selfish.
I'm not sure that's selfish, really. That's just wanting to do nice things for yourself. But I think selfish does have a negative connotation in a sense that it's usually used in a negative context, isn't it? I nobody will deny you your television or whatever, but you know, if, for example, you know, you buying your television or whatever else denies somebody else something, and you know, maybe they can't eat, then that, for example, might be seen as selfish, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously selfish has, I would say 90%, you know, everyone thinks it's just completely negative. I don't know. Like I said, that's kind of my little definition. It's a personal thing. So, you know, it's not exactly what everyone else thinks, but good. So what about considerate? Considerate.
You see there, your definition, I think, is wrong. Yeah, I posted because it's interesting. The way you view yourself in terms of using the word selfish. This is the actual definition.
Of a person
acting,
yep.
Sorry, lacking consideration for other people, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. And that's the thing about the word selfish. It's not, you know, acting in your own self-interest is something different from being selfish. I think we all should act in our own self-interest, because, you know, even if you help other people, usually the motivation is to do with, you know, you feel good about that you've helped somebody else. So everything we do really is about us, isn't it? Because it can't be any different way. But it's when you know, don't show any consideration towards others, or, you know, when you maybe particularly put people down, then I think the word selfish is appropriate.
I would
So
definitely.
I don't think you're selfish at all. I think, you know, you act in your own self-interest to make the best, and we should all make the best of life, you know, that we possibly can.
Yay! I'm not selfish. No.
You're not selfish.
I thought it was not in the negative way.
No.
But as you said, I think everyone always takes their personal interest first before others. I mean, even in a relationship, you know, like with a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend.
You do nice things for your partner in the hope that maybe they'll do something nice back, or maybe because they say thank you, or other pleasures which we can't discuss because we are live. But I'm
okay,
terrible. I'm sorry.
Thomas is on a roll today. So moving on, as I said before, what about considerate? What is considerate?
To think deeply.
To think deeply. Considerate. I might disagree with that.
I think it's more related with this, the opposite to selfish, as Thomas is talking about this new definition. Considerate, I think, is when you are talking or thinking about the person before yourself, or taking in consideration the others, or could be in that way.
Okay, good. Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that you said it's the opposite of selfish. I do agree with that, because when someone is considerate, you're looking out for the other person before your needs. Right, Thomas? Well done, Ken. Showing careful thought.
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. It's more or less what Ken really described, but it's also, of course, the opposite of selfish in a sense. And the other definition, of course, I always look for the obscure definition that I hadn't been aware of before first, and then so careful not to inconvenience or harm others, which is kind of more or less the opposite of selfish, isn't it?
Well, thanks, Thomas, for proving me wrong today. Well, personally,
no, you weren't wrong. It's just, you know, usually you're right. That's the way we would use the word considerate, I think. Mind you, I suppose it also comes from to consider something, doesn't it?
Yeah, to think about,
and that means to think about things and to be thoughtful about things, as Ken was kind of pointing out. So, but nobody's wrong. We are just all right. That's a good thing.
In our own ways. Yeah.
Yes.
No, I do agree with that. I suppose you're right. Once, you mentioned to consider something, the verb, that does make more sense. Good. Well, any other comments before we take a look at the next adjective? Looks like no. So easygoing. Do I have anybody who's easygoing here?
Sometimes.
It depends.
Well done.
I think everyone sometimes could be easygoing. Okay. Did you want to expand on that, Ken?
I cannot say. Easygoing is kind of laid back, or maybe not so harsh, or also maybe not so temperamental, probably.
Okay, good. Yeah, so maybe it's the opposite of temperamental.
Also impetuous, or opposed to impetuous.
I don't know if I would say that. Thomas, are you looking
I can't think of an opposite of easygoing, I have to be honest. I mean, the descriptions are right, both from Rafa and Ken. So yeah, it's being fairly chilled out, fairly relaxed about things. Sort of, it could refer to a personality, like an easygoing personality, to people being fairly easygoing, or to you personally, I suppose.
Well, I think, impetuous to me, as we said earlier, it's more of you do something so quickly that you kind of don't care. Easygoing is how you are naturally. And so it's kind of more just a relaxed attitude. It's not that you don't care. So that's why I don't think that impetuous is a good word there. But easygoing, yeah, someone laid back, chill, kind of just whatever, like see how it goes. I think, I would say, Rafa, Spanish people are either easygoing or temperamental, but a lot of people here in Andalusia are easygoing. They're just very relaxed, sometimes too relaxed. But I think we had a discussion of like the siesta, the nap time, and that's because of the sun, so in the heat, and I think that might be the same thing here in the south. Comments, Rafa?
No, I completely agree with you.
Okay, good. Thomas, anything with easygoing? Anything else?
No, I think we've covered it quite well, haven't we?
All right, so Thomas, what do you have for circumspect?
Well, as I said, it's sort of, when I use it, I tended to use it in a sort of suspicious, that people are suspicious. It isn't entirely accurate, it appears, but this is the definition: wary and unwilling to take risks. There's some synonyms. So in some senses, for example, guarded is a synonym. Cautious, wary, careful. So guarded does suggest some kind of suspicion, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
So it is kind of, when people are circumspect, they're a little bit kind of standoffish, a little bit cautious.
I would even, say conservative to just to relate it to something that we've had, that we talked about earlier. Reasonable, rational. They think about maybe the outcomes, the repercussions before they do something. So yeah, thinkers. So
yeah.
Good. Ken or Rafa, have you heard of this word before?
Which word? Sorry.
Circumspect, the last one.
Oh, sorry. No.
Okay.
Okay, yes, because there is another word very similar, circunspecto.
Really?
Yeah, and is people who is looking as they are worried all the time, or don't say anything, cautious, as Thomas says. Perhaps the same meaning.
Perfect. Well, that sounds good then. So any other questions about these vocabulary words? Because what I want to do next is, let me just move this down.
And it does come from the Latin circumspectus. So hence it's probably in French, in Spanish, Portuguese. It's probably all very similar.
It's the same root.
Yeah, same root. Exactly.
Perfect. Well, good. So what I want to do now is actually, let me see if I can copy and paste these words into the chat. Okay, well, more or less, they're there. Because what I want to do is give you a situation. Okay, so for example, Jane always expects everyone to help her with anything she needs, but she never lends a hand when needed. So out of all of these words, which do you think describes this person? Any ideas?
Selfish.
Oh, sorry.
I will agree with selfish. Yes. Why did you choose that one, Ken?
Because her attitude is pretty selfish. She is thinking about herself only.
Absolutely. Well, perfect. Anything else we need to talk about, or should we go to number 2?
No, I think that it's selfish, isn't it? I mean, what she's doing.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so number 2 says, I love my best friend, but she is happy one minute and screaming the next. And I want to add, this is not true, okay? I mean, well, all women I think are like this, but at some point. But good. So this is just the example. Any answers here? I'm sorry?
Moody, temperamental could be also.
Good. Yep. Temperamental is this one here. Very good. Yeah, definitely moody.
Impetuous could be. Not.
Impetuous. No, just because you can't really control the feelings, I would say. So, no, but temperamental definitely is the correct answer. This number 3 says, my boss hates new ideas. He wants everything to be done as it was when he first started the business.
Conservative.
I would agree with that. Any other suggestions?
It's conservative.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, I mean, something like this could be circumspect as well, but conservative is kind of the most correct answer here. So good. Number 4 says, my cousin doesn't like to talk much. At family reunions, he normally sits and reads in a room.
Introverted.
Yeah, an introvert. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, of course. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to put the words in the chat box. So you at least had all of the words. Otherwise, I would be going up and down this entire time. So perfect. Let's move on to number 5. My brother is so relaxed, almost too relaxed. He never has a care in the world.
Easygoing.
Easygoing?
Chilled.
Yeah.
Chilled isn't one of those words, Thomas. It's easygoing.
I just added a word. I just added a word to the list.
Well, you added a synonym to the list. Good. Yep, I totally agree with this. This is actually, my brother is kind of like that. So good. Okay, so number 6 says he is very cautious about everything. He always likes to think a lot before making a decision.
Considerate.
Considerate. I don't. What, Rafa?
Circumspect. I don't.
Yep, I would agree with that. Circumspect, good. It's quite a difficult word. Yeah, just because he's cautious, he's being careful, you know, reserved, guarded. Okay, rational as well. So good. All right, so James,
considerate is a possibility here, I think.
Really?
In context of he always likes to think a lot more before making a decision, which means he considers things before making a decision. In that context, I can see why consideration or considerate would be a possible.
I suppose, but this is the new definition we've added today. So when I did this, I only had one.
I messed everything up, haven't I?
No, it's okay. You supported Ken, and that's good, so he doesn't feel bad when...
He doesn't have to feel bad. He was right.
Well, exactly. So no, that's good. But I'm saying, you know, I said no, that I didn't really agree with his answer. So that's what I'm saying. It's good that you did, find this answer. So good. And so, yes.
Another one, procrastinator or something like that. People who always is thinking better than doing things, always thinking before decision, procrastinating.
Are you talking about number 7?
6, I think.
Number 6.
Number 6.
But I think to procrastinate really means to when you put things off, when you always when you can't manage the tasks that for sometimes for day-to-day stuff, or maybe at work, there's certain things you procrastinate about, like I mean, for me, for example, doing the accounts, I always procrastinate, I always put it off. So I don't think that really quite fits.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that too. Procrastination's like, no, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. So that's kind of how I look at that. But I mean, you're right. In a sense, I can understand why you would think of that word for number 6. But I would change the word cautious then in that sentence. So good. For number 7, it says, James always makes decisions in the moment. He never thinks about the consequences.
Impetuous.
Okay. Impetuous, I do think you're right on that one. Yep. Thomas just shakes his head. Yes. All right, good. Okay, so number 8 here says, when I go home, my parents always have something waiting for me. They love giving me gifts. So this might be my definition of the word.
Considerate. They are considerate.
Yeah, they're thinking about me in this case, about, what I want to eat or buying me things. Yeah, so this is my definition of considerate.
Okay, fair enough.
Thomas?
No, I agree.
Do you have it?
No. That's absolutely fine. There's no other word that would fit, so that's definitely the word.
Okay, good. Well, let me take a look at number 9 here. It says, Annie is such a social person. She loves to be out with her friends at any given moment of the day.
Easygoing could be.
Okay.
Gregarious.
There you go. That's the word. Gregarious here. Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward there. And actually, I believe this is the last one I have. I was supposed to have another 10, but I definitely used the instructions as number 1 and then realized that. So the other word that we don't have a definition here for is liberal. Okay. So liberal, which we talked about before, someone who's liberal.
It's actually quite a difficult one to define, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, I would say someone who goes to the beach topless would be liberal, because I wouldn't do that. But that's a different sense of the word as well.
I think there's so many uses of it that. Okay, let's put. I'm just going to post a definition, and we can look at it. I'm trying. I hope I'm not clicking you away. No, there we are.
Also, I mean, you can think of, for example,
which is more or less what both Ken and Rafa said, wasn't it? Really. So you were absolutely right. So it's difficult to write a thing around it, isn't it? It's kind of more a concept, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, an example could be you work maybe at like what's that called? It's coming to me in Spanish. A journalist to write articles in a newspaper or magazine or something, and your boss says, "Hey, do whatever you want." And that's pretty liberal, but Anyway, so good. Perfect. Well, I want to get to these idioms. That's why I was trying to go a little bit fast with those definitions because these are fun.
Okay.
So we have some idioms here, and I'm just going to go through these to see if we've heard of them or not, because on the next page I have the definitions. Okay, and I didn't think the first part would take that long, so that's fine. It's good. So our first one is rotten apple. Don't forget, all of these are idioms. A loose cannon, tough cookie, big cheese, goody goody or goody two shoes, a couch potato, and wet blanket, cool as a cucumber, and cheapskate, I think is the last one here. So in general, I don't want to show that yet. In general, have you heard of some of these? I know at least a couple we've heard of. Thomas, have you heard of all of these?
Go up again. I think so.
All right.
I think I've heard all of yeah. No, I haven't. Good. Sorry, what was that? Goody something cheese.
Goody two shoes.
Two shoes. No, I haven't heard of that one. Goody, yes, but not of goody two shoes. I haven't heard that one. All the rest, yes.
Okay. Good. Well, Ken and Rafa, what do you think? Like 10%, 20, 30, 50% that you've heard of these? Or 0? 60%? And Ken?
Yeah, more than 50% I've heard, and I forgot most of the meaning of them.
Thanks for being honest. That's great. So, well, we won't have to guess this time. We're just going to read. All right. So, Ken, why don't you go ahead and help me here? You can read what a rotten apple is.
Okay. Rotten apple, someone who has a bad effect on people in a group of friends, co-workers, etc. I see.
All right. So I was going to write some situations about these, but I think it's best if we kind of think of this as well. So there's, there's always that rotten apple in a group. You want to go to a movie and then you can't decide on the movie because there's that one person that says, I have seen that movie and I'm not going to see it again. Right?
Yeah.
Any other examples? Thomas, comments?
I always think of them as criminals, as sort of rotten apples. So, somebody in a group who tries to entice other people to do nasty things.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's always just to make them do bad things, but I just feel that they're kind of like, I don't know if you've heard the Debbie Downer, the one that just doesn't want to do anything. Debbie Downer, I think that's how you spell it. I don't know, but the one that just disagrees with everybody else or does the opposite.
I can still hear you, but I just realized I can't actually see anything through my glasses, so I'm just going to clean them.
All right, good. Well, I'll move down here, Rafa. I'll have you read this next one, okay?
Sorry. Look, read it. Loose cannon, someone who is outspoken, doesn't control what they say. When they say it, unpredictable. Loose cannon.
Yep, and unpredictable. Does anyone know anyone who's a loose cannon?
That T.
Do I think I know who you're talking about?
I think you know.
The forbidden name.
PR.
Yeah. Ends with ump.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a bit of a loose cannon, that's true.
Yeah, he's a huge loose cannon.
A bit scary when a loose cannon is actually capable of loosening a cannon.
Yeah, exactly. That's oh, yep, next.
It will, Becky, it will always come back to that, so you can't help it.
Yeah, I know. I just it's at a point now where it's just like, seriously, it's just a little too much. And I heard something about war this week, so
Yes, North Korea. Yeah, I heard about it.
yeah. Good. Well, Thomas,
They're all
do you
getting in position. Tough cookie. Somebody who's very tough. Somebody who's very strong. Someone who stands up for himself, herself, or others. A person who has to deal with difficult situations and can still continue. So yeah, somebody who's, you know, robust, strong.
fighter, those kinds of things.
Yeah, not necessarily physically, but just, you know, he's a bit of a tough cookie, isn't he?
Right.
He's difficult to get through to this one because he's quite tough, isn't he? So it's in that sort of context.
Well, even for example, if you put it with a disease, for example, cancer, you know, he's a tough cookie. He's fighting.
He'll survive. He's a tough cookie. Don't worry about him.
Yeah,
cancer, nothing to him.
Exactly. So yeah, when I said a fighter, I wasn't thinking physically either, but good. No, that was perfect.
And it's not a male or female thing at all, by the way.
No,
It refers to both sexes.
That was a good comment, Thomas. I do agree with that. So perfect. Let's go down here. Ken, it's your turn to read the big cheese.
Good. Big cheese. This is a person who is very influential or important.
So in this room, Thomas would be the big cheese.
Yeah.
It's usually said in a somewhat slightly sarcastic way, isn't it, Maggie? Wouldn't you agree?
Kinda.
Oh, he's the big cheese.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, that Trump, he's the big cheese. But really, I mean, for God's sake. Yeah.
Yeah. Ken, did you want to say something?
Yeah, maybe word sometimes the meaning is not so, you know, just only one. Maybe it nuance a bit different. So to get a exact nuance is a bit difficult for non-native speakers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, literally, you could say that's a really big piece. Well, I suppose this couldn't be used in a literal sense, just because a big cheese, or that's some big cheese. Some big cheese we could use because cheese is uncountable. But yeah, normally in this case, it's not going to be referred to the actual cheese. Rafa, any comments?
No.
Okay. Well, perfect. Rafa, you are going to read this next one. Uh-oh. Let me get this down on the next page so it's all together. Okay.
Goody to shoes. This is someone who is sweet, kind, caring, nice. This person is the opposite of a rebel or anyone who is not nice. Goody, nice.
Good. So, Thomas, is this the definition you were thinking of for goody?
I have to be honest. I have heard of it, but I don't think I've ever used it. So, in terms of she's a bit of a goody. You know, he's a bit of a goody, bit of a nice person, quite sweet. But again, I would have thought again, maybe that's just me being too Germanic, but a hint of sarcasm in both of these terms.
Well, I was called a goody when I was a kid, so it just means that you're...
Yeah, kids is different. Yeah. No, that's true.
Someone who tattletales, you know, they say, "Mom, look what he's doing," and you know, like saying, "My brother's doing this," so you know, stuff like that. Someone who's very innocent, but sure, yeah. I mean, as adults, this does take on a different kind of.
Maybe it's also the tone you put on it.
It does, and that happens a lot. So, so perfect. Well, let's continue on here. We have a couple more to go. Couch potato, I think everybody knows. It's a person who's normally lazy. Watching TV on the couch all day is basically, I think, where this came from. And potatoes don't move. On their own. So, any questions about this one?
Well, courgettes don't move either. Sorry.
That's a zucchini.
It is a zucchini in American. It's a courgette in English. In UK
well,
English.
In French, let's say this really. English use the French word. Americans use the Italian word.
It's zucchini in German.
I'm sorry?
It's the same. It's zucchini in German as well.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
What's completely different in Spanish, and in Japanese, I have no idea. So.
Couch potato. That's Japanese accent.
Couch
really?
I like that, Ken. Yeah, I couldn't look. I don't think there's a German word for couch potato. That's always the problem with idioms, isn't it? You can't often translate them. Sometimes you can, but a lot of time it's quite difficult, isn't it?
What I try and do is think of, tell the person, literally think about what it could mean, the possibilities of the word or words, and then kind of try and, get it from there. Rafa, is there a word for couch potato or something in Spanish?
No, I can't remember right now.
Okay, yeah, no, I can't think of anything either.
No.
Okay, well, that's...
It's apparently translated couch potato or couch Kartoffel. I've never heard of it in German. So it's exactly the same, apparently.
Well,
I'd
good.
never heard of it.
Well, as we continue then, because we're almost done here, wet blanket. Thomas, it's your turn to read.
Okie dokie, wet blanket. This is a person who's negative about a lot of things. They normally ruin other people's experience.
Have we heard of this, Rafa, Ken?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Okay. Rafa?
Yeah.
Is it the same in Spanish too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. So that one works. Yeah, someone who's, again, a Debbie Downer, someone who's just negative about something. So, good. I'd like to move on to this one.
Complaining or...
Yeah, always complaining, sure. Yeah, if you're complaining all the time, you're going to ruin other people's experiences. Yeah, quite negative. So good. Let's see. All right, we'll get this here. And Ken, why don't you go ahead and read cool as a cucumber?
Yeah. Cool as a cucumber. This is a person who isn't anxious, someone who is always calm in any situation.
So we could say easygoing.
You could.
Yeah. No, I like this one. When I hear these, I think maybe about the time that I learned these or something that my mom had to explain it to me. And, you think a cucumber is in the refrigerator and it's cold, but they're relaxed. I don't know. So sometimes I think of these literal. But yeah, good. And I think I had one more, didn't I? Oh yeah, cheapskate. Rafa, can you read this one, please?
Cheapskate. Someone who doesn't like spending money or other people for gifts, etc. Mean or something.
Just in general, they don't like to spend money. Any comments here?
Yeah, not just on other people, but in general, I think.
Right.
Because, there's a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, actually one of our doctors I used to work with, and he used to go to the pub and bought himself a glass of wine. And then after he'd finished the glass of wine, he'd get out the bottle he'd bought beforehand in the supermarket, and then would fill the glass back up. Now that is a typical definition of a cheapskate.
Exactly. There's a difference between trying to save some money and just being really cheap.
Just being really kind of, so yes, I'm sure it saved him lots of money actually, because wine isn't particularly cheap in London.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. In Spain it is. So
I know, same in Germany.
Good. Well, great conversation. I'm glad. I hope that everyone learned a little something today. I know
Yeah,
I
it was
did.
great. Yeah,
Good.
it was good.
Well, perfect. And on Monday, we're going to do some role plays. So make sure you make it for that one because those are always fun. About work, need to think of some situation. Last time I did it randomly. I said pick, 1, 2, or 3 from each group. So might do a little bit of a game or something like that. So we'll see how it works out. But that is it for now.
I've put up all you may as well stop the recording.
Okay. Stop